This program is brought to you by Pussy Magnets.
Put a midge on your friends with a pussy magnet.
Welcome, my lovely lumps. Or should I say lovely labs? I'm so thrilled to have you here in the Labia Lounge. We're going to yarn about all things sexuality, womanhood, relationships, intimacy, holistic health, and everything in between. Your legs. Ooh, can't help myself. Anyway, we're going to have vag loads of real chats with real people about real shit. So buckle up, you're about to receive the sex ed that you never had and have a bloody good laugh while you're at it. Before we dive in, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm recording this, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. It's an absolute privilege to be living and creating dope podcast content in Naarm, and I pay respect to their elders past, present, and emerging. Now, if you're ready, let's flap and do this. Oh my God, is there such thing as too many vagina jokes in the one intro? Whatever, it's my podcast. I'm leaving it in.
Don't panic, you're not broken. Your sex education was a piece of shit. Get your flaps out and pull up a couch. It's the Labia Lounge.
Hey gang, welcome back to the lounge. This one's a pretty fun Sand in My Clam installment. Haven't done one of them in a while, so for those that aren't familiar, these are episodes where I have a bit of an informal chat with friends about things that are getting sand in their clam, generally about being a woman or having a vagina. This one is pretty entertaining, and we're talking all about my friends' dating fails and bedroom bloopers. We cover a bunch of pretty relatable stuff about early dating and trying to have sexual experiences with new people, navigating communicating around our desires and our needs, navigating erectile challenges. There's a bunch of stuff in there around period sex. It's pretty meaty actually. And so while it's relatable and entertaining, we actually have some very deep chats as well that will hopefully be quite helpful and give you some tips and some food for thought if you're also navigating those waters. Apologies for the sound. It's pretty trash as usual with these episodes where I don't have my normal setup, but if you can bear with us, I hope you'll enjoy.
Ah, shit. Far out, woman. What's got sand in your clam now?
Pew, 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 pew. Sand in my clam. Hey gang, just before we jump into this episode, I wanted to offer you an opportunity to access my new mini course for free before I start charging for it in future. It's for people with vulvas and it's quick to complete. It's all about demystifying the female body and pleasure anatomy and getting some basic fundamentals to understand your body better. It's called Pussy Pleasure Secrets, Your Roadmap to Bedroom Bliss. You can grab it on the freebies page of my website or in the show notes. It's a great little free resource to kind of dip your toe in or act as a bit of a taster for my work. So if you've ever been curious about this sort of thing and you just don't know where to start, or you want a really quick, easy, accessible, non-threatening way to get the ball rolling and start working on this stuff, this is a great place to start.
Yeah, I kind of want to start with the story about the spiritual fuckboy.
Oh, yeah. Done.
Yeah.
Okay. It's right up there. All right. So, meet with this dude from Hinge, and we've got like a crazy amount in common. He's a psych. So he's got that sort of, pathology about him, I suppose, where he can kind of unpack you a little bit.
Yeah, lots of therapy speak.
Lots of therapy speak for sure. But at the time when I was dating, I guess I was feeling a bit lost. And like for some reason, he just was quite manipulative, I realized.
Yeah.
So,
but in the beginning, that's not as obvious. It's like, oh, wow, they're really like paying attention and they're like psychoanalyzing me in this really like, poignant way, and like I feel so seen, and then it's like, wait a second, actually that's a fucking red flag.
No,
they're using their facts.
What gets me about it is like the initial, it should have been like really obvious to me. But I think for the fact that he is a psych and I work in a similar industry, I was like, oh, this guy gets me, and there'll be kind of a mutual respect. You know what I mean? No, obviously not. You know, but
Damn, dude.
yeah. First time meeting him, I was like, oh my God, we've both lived on the same street called like, that was like the same name of the street. Wow. Like, oh wow,
Oh,
we
babe.
both read the same book. I know. Mind you, I was like 23.
Yeah,
I know.
That's so normal to be kind of naive and just overexcitable when you're that age.
Yeah.
And like too trusting because you haven't been burned
Exactly.
so many times yet.
Exactly. And more like, I think he was the first non-shit person I'd matched with on Hinge for ages. So therefore he got like bumped up when he was probably the most average out of everyone. But no, a first date was like, we hung out at like Northgate. It was raining and he wanted to go to the playground. And I was like, okay. And we like hung out there, and then it got a little bit like romantic, I suppose. Well, I guess it seems that way with the brain. 23.
Yeah.
And then, went back to his, and he was just instantly trying to get in. And I was like, oh no, like I don't really want to. I'm happy to like kiss you and stuff, but like just not today kind of thing. So it was within like an hour we met. He was like, let's just go back to mine. I want to show you this book. And then just really going really quickly. And I think at that stage I didn't have good boundaries either, where I'd be like, oh no, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh God, this makes my blood boil already. Like just instantly trying to get in your pants as soon as you get back to his house, like under the guise of a book.
Yes, exactly. Like exactly. But the part where it gets fucking weird is like the next time we hung out, he came over to my place. I had said no the first time, and it was a very like, I said no the first time. So then it felt as if already I had like something to prove. Does that make sense? I think by his like, just with him like trying so hard at the start, like I'd let him down or something. You know what I mean? I can't quite.
You feel like because you said no the first time and he was so disappointed by that like the second time you were like, fuck, well, I better be ready now because I already let him down that first time. And like, were you rushing yourself to have sex because you didn't feel like you could say no a second time because that would be like leading him on or whatever?
Yeah, exactly.
Classic coercion. Love that for you. So sorry, but right? We've so all been there.
Exactly. But at this point, he'd already like head fucked me so much and made me feel as if like I had to prove something intellectually. You know what I mean?
Ugh, I hate
like. Yes, fuckwit. But like, what did he? Okay, so we're sitting around at my place, and he's like, "Oh, you like rock music? Oh, so were you angry as a child?" Like
fuck off,
this kind of stuff. But I was someone who wouldn't get emotional with someone early. You know what I mean? But he would like say these things to make you feel like you're kind of being pathologized, but also at the same time I'd be like, wow, I guess I was angry as a kid. Like maybe I have some pent up stuff, you know what I mean? And like, all these ridiculous things that I look back on now, and they were all so he could just get in.
Well, it's so classic of like, you know, this dynamic where like you are a relatively sensitive, self-aware woman that is really down for self-growth and self-reflection in the name of growth. And so like people can exploit that. They can start that whole psychoanalytical thing where even if it doesn't resonate straight away, you're willing to give it some thought and be like, oh, well, if someone's saying this, maybe I should just give it like give it a spin and try it on for size, and maybe I could learn something about myself here. Maybe I should take it on board. Like, whereas I feel like, yeah, I mean, it's very tricky to still be self-aware and open to growth and change and reflection without it being taken advantage of and actually just letting in anyone's opinions of you
Exactly.
and giving them an inch and them taking a mile, and then, you know, them head
Exactly.
fucking you.
Yeah.
But that, like, that willingness to self-reflect and desire for, like, always, you know, growing and bettering yourself can be majorly exploited by, like, the narcissist or, yeah, some sort of, like, toxic fucking, yeah, person who's studied enough in the realm of psychologists that they know the language to use and they know how to turn it against you.
Exactly. At that stage, I hadn't even graduated. So I was like, oh, this is like the other side of it. He's really making me feel seen, you know what I mean? And also like challenging me in an appropriate way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, but that's how he almost like set the groundwork with all these kind of like, oh, what do you think about like, what else would he say? I'm trying to remember. Like the rock music, and he started going on this like, you just seem a bit closed, like you seem like you're not, leading with your emotions and things. And I'd be like, well, I'm not, because that's hard for me, and I've got to do that in a safe space, but like maybe that safe space is you, yada yada yada. Then he kind of used that to he's like, I feel like, sexually you've just got to sort of like be a bit more free. Like you've got to just get out there, and you've got to be present in the moment, sort of thing. I'm like, okay. And he's like, have you heard of Tantra? I'm like, yeah. And I'd been with an ex. I'm like, so me and my ex, we did like the first thing of Tantra, which is like a mutual meditation. And he's like, yeah. So like you have the first stage of tantric, which is mutual meditation, and like getting centered with your heart and like mirroring your breath and all this. And he's like, and then you have the second stage, but then you have the third stage where you just get like animalistic and you just sort of go with it, and you just like let yourself let like kind of anything happen, sort of thing. And I was like, okay. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I think like if you're going to do it, it's a practice, and you probably need to go through the stages. He's like, yeah. He's like, maybe because you're a little bit like emotionally closed, maybe we should try it, kind of thing. I'm like, okay. Yeah, I know. But then he's like, I know this fucking guy, exactly. Then he so we started having like your average missionary sex kind of thing. And then he like stops and he's like, so I want to go right to like stage 3 of tantric. He's like, just letting you know, like I can like just let myself go and things, but I think it's important that you like let yourself go as well. Because I was a bit stiff. Like there's been no like, foreplay, or I think it was you who spoke about responsive or spontaneous desire. Like there was just like a let's go and be open to it. You know what I mean? And I'm already head fucked enough where it's like, maybe I should, maybe this will be good for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then this is the disappointing part about it. So I slept with him twice. God damn it. The first time we had sex, it was almost like a soft launch of what was going to happen. As he was coming, he howled. Like he went, oh, like that out of nowhere. And I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, I told you, I get like really animalistic. I was like, okay, I didn't know that's what you meant, but all right. And I was still in the sort of head frame of being like, oh, I've got to just be open to it. Then the second time he's like, Alana, you've just got to like be present. You've got to just feel your way into it. So he starts like, I could see what he was trying to do was like experiment with different touch, but he wasn't exactly communicating that. So he'd be like at my knees and then be like sort of tapping my knees, and then he'd like run his fingers down my leg and then like tap my knees again, and I'd be like, just kind of sitting there like, and he's like, Alana, like, you got to be present. You got to like, I'm like, I don't know. It's just like kind of not really doing anything for me. Then he's like, no, you just got to get into it. You just got to get into it. I'm like, okay. And I like close my eyes and he start like tapping my knees and down my legs again. And then he like, at one point he like kind of like did this like quick little slap over the tit. And I was like, oh,
You did.
he slapped my tit. And then he was like, he's like almost making sounds while he's doing it, like a like a Wolf of Wall Street, like no shit. And then he keeps going, and I'm just trying to be like, oh, this is awesome. At this point, I'm like trying to prove a point. So I'm like, yeah, that feels good.
You can get into this. Look how primal and animalistic and liberated I am. Oh,
and then he'd be like growling and making like animal sounds. But this is the part I didn't get, was like, if you're going to like let yourself go and let yourself be free, I don't know that it's like necessarily a very put on like, grrr, you know what I mean? Like during it.
Maybe for him. But yeah, to expect you to just be able to drop straight into that and have a compatible way of expressing yourself and letting go to him after like 2 dates is kind of crazy. And then to act like he's this fucking guru and you're the student and he's like doing you a favor by like fucking you open and helping you liberate yourself from the shackles of, you know, normcore sexual expression.
Yes.
It's just like, come on, dude.
Right? Tell me about it. And then he like, he kept doing the fucking tapping thing, and then like, I remember he'd get on top of me, we'd have sex like just in missionary for a little bit, and he'd just be making all these fucking animal sounds. And then afterwards my whole body would break out in like a rash. Never happened ever with any other sexual partner. Ever. It was literally like my body rejected him. You know what I mean?
Whoa. Amazing.
Right? It's where and then I'd get like, I've never really had this with another sexual partner either, but only after seeing him would I get like a UTI.
Yeah.
And I swear my whole body rejected him. You know what I mean? I'd be like, are you wearing like a particular kind of body wash or something? He's like, no. I'm like, okay. Oh yeah, it was weird. It was very, very weird.
Whoa.
I know.
And like, did you just get wise to it and end it, or what happened?
After the second time with I think second or the first time he did the howling. Yeah. And still though, I don't think at that stage I was still like, oh, I need to like open myself up. At one point he said like, maybe we should shoot like sex videos together. We'd make a killing on OnlyFans and stuff. And I'd be like, oh, yeah, maybe one day. But then he had like a fixed idea that it was happening. He's like, so when are we going to do it? Like, whatever. Like, let's just like get out there kind of thing. Wow. I'm like, what the fuck? Then I can't even remember what happened. I think I just ghosted a little bit. Told everyone this story because I thought it was hilarious. And then it was like a year or two ago, actually, like 4 years later, I'm just walking down the street one day and I see him sitting on the grass with his friend. He's like, oh, Alana, what's up? I'm like, hey, how are you? I'm like, oh, I've got to go, sorry, but like good to see you kind of thing. And then he would text me being like, do you want to like hang out again? And I'm like, oh, to be honest, I'm not really looking for like a hookup at the moment, like kind of thing. And he's like, that's cool. We could just be friends. And I'm like, to be honest with you, I think with the relationship we had, we would not be just friends. You know what I mean? He's like, no, I think we should just like hang out and be friends. And I'm like, I don't think so. And then
even his like inability to hear no is like such a big fat red flag. Like even like from the get-go, he didn't take no very well and then kept trying to like push your boundaries and like guide it into a place that he wanted. Like, yuck. I've come across so many fucking guru types and spiritual tantric fuckboys and just so many people in that realm that are like, yeah, the worst like that. And you can find them everywhere. They don't have to be, you know, under the guise of being spiritual or into tantra, but it definitely is a really, it's a community that's rife with like people like that are taking advantage of like vulnerable people that are seeking growth and seeking learning and exploration and healing. Like, yeah, it's so easy to like pick vulnerable people off in those spaces and be like, I've got the answers. My dick can heal you. I'm going to show you the way. Oh, you just need to open up more. You just need to like let go more. Like, here, I'll show you how. Come. Like, it's so, yuck. It makes my skin crawl.
I know. It's
The whole
really,
like, oh,
cool.
after 2 dates, it's like, you're not open enough. You're not expressive enough. You just need to get more sexually free. It's like, no, I don't. I'm fucking closed for a reason. They're called boundaries and you have to earn my trust.
Exactly. Exactly. This dude was fucked. I've seen him since as well. Like, I'm just walking around and I see this guy one day with like his shirt off in a handstand with his legs spread. Yeah. And I see him from really far away. I was like, and he's like obnoxiously in the middle of a park, like just like with his legs up.
Oh
and I'm just on my morning walk and I'm like, oh my God, it's him. What the fuck?
Hey, baby babes. Sorry to interrupt. I just had to pop my head into the lounge here and mention another virtual lounge that I'd love you to get around. It's the Labia Lounge Facebook group that I've created for listeners of the poddy to mingle in. There you'll find extra bits and bobs like freebies, behind the scenes, or discounts for offerings from guests who have been interviewed on the podcast. There'll also be, hopefully, inspiring, thought-provoking conversations and support from a community of labial legends like yourself. My vision for this is that it becomes a really supportive, educational and hilarious resource for you to have more access to me and a safe space to ask questions you can't ask anywhere else. So head over to the links in the show notes or look up the Labia Lounge group in Facebook and I'll see you in there. And now, back to the episode.
All right, talk to me about the pussy biter.
Okay, this was a recent one. And I feel bad. Yeah, I know.
Oh, God.
I know. Oh, God. This was like a recent one. And it's such a lovely dude. Like, honestly, a lovely dude. Just excited. I don't know. Yeah. And there was a lot of intimacy. He just didn't know how to channel it, I suppose. When he was going down on me, he just really, really didn't know what he was doing, but to a point where there's only so many times you can put someone's hand back or their head back there or like point it out and then they sort of still are doing weird stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So you're trying to guide him with like your hands and like point him in the right direction and stuff. Did you kind of verbally be a bit explicit or did you feel a bit bad to be?
I felt a bit bad because there were other elements. I think I did speak to you about this. I can't remember. But there's been a lot of dudes who can lose their erection. That is normal and fine. But this was like really quick, like erect, not erect, within like I would say 2-minute spaces. You know what I mean? Mm. And which was fine because we actually had really, really good sex and good intimacy. But I'd never experienced that where it was so quick, you know what I mean? And it was sort of more the in-between moments were kind of like a buffering, you know what I mean? So then we would end up total having sex for like 5 hours, but neither of us have finished. And it's like, yeah, it was just sort of, there wasn't anything in between or during those in-between moments, like even his sort of fingering was like there was no sort of technique to it. It was just like, I don't know how to describe that with words, like
just waving around. In the
waving it
breeze.
around, like
Okay.
not in
And so
out.
you were like a bit hesitant to verbally give explicit feedback and guidance because you just thought that would make it even harder for him to keep an erection or something.
I went on like a Google rampage and I'm like, because I'd never had that. I'm like, this doesn't appear to be like a nerves thing. Like, at least as far as I can tell, like this just, it's so quick. And there'd be like in between moments where I'd be going down on him and then he'd get it back, but then he would lose it quite quickly. And so just being mindful that it could be a nerves thing, I didn't want to like then coach him anymore.
Well, you don't have to coach him about his erection. That's not what I mean. I mean, like with the fingering technique and the oral technique and stuff, like he obviously didn't really know how to do it in a way that felt good for your body. And so wild to me that people can get to our age, because I hear this all the time and I'm like, literally, how the fuck have you gotten to be in your 30s and still not know how to fucking treat a pussy? Because like, and I think like so many men kind of just don't actually get any guidance or feedback because us women are trying really hard not to hurt their feelings or not to like ruin the mood or, you know, mean that they'll lose their erection because they can't handle the feedback or whatever. So we're trying to be really gentle and soft and understanding. And also it's doing such a disservice to them and also every woman that they're ever going to be with in the future because like they never actually learn. And it's like so exhausting to have to be the one to give that feedback. But I feel like it's so important that we all get better at that because like otherwise there's all these people running around not knowing how to finger bang someone or, you know, biting people's pussies without asking for consent and making sure they're actually into that and thinking everyone's like loving it and actually no one's loving it, but no one's bold enough or kind enough to actually tell them because we're also worried about men handling rejection and handling feedback, which is really sad. And like, I'm such a big advocate for this because like, yeah, I just feel like if someone fucking bit my pussy, they would know about it. I would like stop immediately. So tell me about that bit.
Okay. That was bad. So there was like he was going down on me and also I was a bit drunk at the time as well. So I just I already had no filter as it is and then I really had no filter. But like as he was like going down on me, he was doing like this weird sort of like lizard thing at first, like really soft, then like really hard and not anywhere near the clit at all, like almost like the left flap, you know what I mean? And then there was like, you know, and also like trying to like suck the whole vagina, you know what I mean? Like suck both flaps at the same time.
Like your whole vulva. Just
yes.
Yeah, okay. Interesting.
And then little licks, and then at some point the little licks went into like a big sort of gnaw, like he like seriously like someone eating a piece of meat off a bone, like like that. Like just above the clit, I would say. And I was just like, I just couldn't. I just reacted in the moment. I was like, oh, what the fuck? And like, went like that. And he's like, oh, sorry. And just kind of laughed about it. I was like, ow, like that really hurt. Like, and again, and then I went into that quick mode where I was just like, oh, it's okay. Like maybe let's just do something else. Like let's cuddle or something kind of thing. It was just, so bad. But like, yeah, he then 2 weeks later in like an intimate moment, he's like, am I like good at oral kind of thing? And that's again when I was a bit drunk and I just accidentally sort of laughed. I know. I didn't want to destroy his confidence, but I was like, fuck, he needs to know. Like, this is just, it's not even like it's like average, like it's bad. You know what I mean? And he's like biting, you know what I mean? It's like, where even on porn did you get that idea? Like, I don't know. And then I was like, and I'm like, oh, and I was like, and kind of laughed at like the awkwardness of it. And I'm like, it's not that you're bad at it. It's just that maybe you don't know what I like, like when we had that conversation about like different pressure and things like that, like that's kind of what I meant. But like you did bite my vagina, and he's like, yeah, maybe you could give me more direction. And I was really sort of thinking, fuck, at this point, I feel like I've been as clear and as gentle as I possibly could be, and he's just not getting it. I think he was like, the way he'd approach sex was like, and any sort of sexual activity was like hard, fast, quick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he just couldn't like switch out of that mode, even if I was like, oh, I really like a gentle touch, and then I like how it would like build up slowly, and like that really. And I do a lot of like positive reinforcement stuff with him, where I'd be like, oh, that's good, keep doing that,
Yeah.
But
you did all the right things.
I tried, but even with the I did want to talk to him about the like erection thing, which is, it's going to happen, but I just never experienced it that quick. And I was like, oh, and you tell me, because I really didn't know how to handle this conversation, where I was just, I'm like, I just, I think like a big turn on for me is seeing like you ejaculate, because that was the thing as well. He would never ejaculate, not once. And I was like, I think a big turn on for me is like seeing that. And I'm just wondering, like, is there something I'm not doing, or is there anything you want to talk about, or are you feeling like uncomfortable at all? Like, is there anything I can be doing? And he's like, oh, no. Like, it just sort of happens and then it comes back and then it kind of happens again, but like, it's all good. And I was like, okay, it's, I guess just for, but knowing him even that little while, it didn't seem like a shame moment. It seemed like really like normal for him, but I don't think he really knew that like being so quick like that's not like, not that what's normal and what's not, but for me that was like something bigger is going on for him.
Before.
He will what?
Something that you hadn't experienced before.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's so tricky because there can be so many reasons for that, and like he might be actually totally chill about it, or he might be deeply ashamed and just not showing it and trying to normalize it by acting like it's not a big deal. You just never really know, because often people don't feel comfortable or safe to sort of share about that, especially in early dating or casual stuff. And like men, experience so much pressure on their erections, and they've really been socialized to attach their masculinity to their erections and their ability to like maintain a rock hard erection with their manliness and things like that. So it's a really delicate thing. And I suppose like it's really tricky because on one hand, it's like hot for you to see him ejaculate. And then on the other hand, I know a lot of women that struggle to come with a partner, and their partner wanting to see them come just puts added pressure on them, and then they get in their heads even more, and then it all is just a shit show, because as soon as there's pressure or expectation around orgasm, it becomes very elusive. And so I'm sure it's very similar for men as well, when there's like any pressure on their erection or their ejaculation, and they've already maybe got some anxiety or some, performance pressure or body image shame or erection shame. And like there's so many things that can be contributing. And I work with a lot of men around difficulties with erection, quote unquote performance. And like it's like so common for there to be like deep shame and embarrassment and like disappointment in their own bodies and in their own penises and erections. So it's just a really tricky thing to navigate with like heaps of compassion and understanding and sort of care. And also like, hey, we do we do kind of have to talk about this stuff. I want to create safety so that we can have these conversations because, like, bodies are interesting and we've all got different ones, and I'm trying to calibrate to yours. And so, like, what can you tell me about yours and your erections, and what what is contributing to you getting or losing one? And yeah, it's just like super tough, hey, because some people aren't ready to have that kind of conversation because it's not normalized and no one's been taught how to actually hold those conversations. It can be really risky because no matter how like caring and gently you approach it, like depending on how much of a story they've got in their own heads about what it all means, it might just trigger their own shame and their own like stories. And it's just hard, I think, if you're in a casual thing or a new thing. Like if you've been with someone long enough, you can hopefully build enough like rapport and safety and have the conversation in little bits over time. But yeah, it's a really tough position to be in for both of you, and like it's especially tough when there isn't. So if there's not like, because yeah, erections aren't going to be consistent, they fluctuate, that's natural. And maybe that was a little bit more frequent, the kind of losing and stuff of his erection than like what is like more common. But like, the normal advice in those situations would be like, let's focus on what we can do without needing to rely on the erection. But it sounds like all the kind of other stuff, hand stuff, like oral, like all of that, he kind of didn't excel at that either, and didn't really know how to like take your feedback and run with it, which makes it even trickier because then in between, when he doesn't have an erection and you're not having penetrative sex, it's like, fuck, like
So
all this
even
other stuff.
more pressure on him, sort of thing. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And that was a thing a couple times when he had left or after like a session, I guess, because it would go for like a couple hours of kind of the back and forth. Then he'd kind of be leaving and be like, oh, I've got blue balls. And I'm like, wait, what? Because I was like, didn't we try and have a conversation about this, like a gentle space?
Saying it in like I've got blue balls and that was your responsibility to sort that out, and now I'm complaining about having blue balls? Or was it like, because like, why would you say that if like you'd obviously done everything that you could?
Yeah. It was almost like I don't know whether he felt like he needed to say it or something, as if like I can come, you know what I mean?
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, maybe it's another just layer of his defense mechanism, because you did obviously ask him, like, what can I do? What do you like? Is there anything that would help? Like, I like to see you ejaculate, so, like, is there anything that can make that happen? Like, you sort of gave ample opportunity to welcome his guidance and direction as well. So it's like then to kind of be like, oh, well, bugger, now I've got blue balls after like, yeah, that seems kind of wild. So maybe it was just like a bit of oh, well, I feel ashamed that I wasn't able to, come, and so I'm going to put the blame in your court by complaining about blue balls. I don't know. That's just like a theory. It might not have been the case at all. Maybe it was just like, yeah, trying to emphasize that like I do sometimes come. I actually can. I just didn't this time or whatever. But like it's so tricky when people aren't down to have the convos with you, because then it just leaves us doing this, which is just like hypothesizing about what he could have been feeling or experiencing in those moments.
Exactly. But even hearing that there was so much like, even just hearing you like kind of parrot back what I just said, I'm just thinking if I was in his position, and you're right, that like weight on the orgasm, like I would just shut down. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so many people do. Yeah. It's really, really common. And then because there's so much embarrassment and shame and self-loathing and sort of self-disappointment involved, it just makes any conversation about it too hard basket. It's just so triggering, and it really overwhelms people when they're dealing with all of that under the surface, So it's really difficult stuff to navigate. And you can say and do all the right things, but if that person's not ready or not willing or not able to go there, yeah, you're not really going to get very far, and it could even do more damage. But I guess just, yeah, coming at it from a place of like always kindness. And like for me, kindness doesn't mean niceness. Like obviously there's a time and a place and there's a context and there's a way of delivering it. But like I think the kindest thing is honesty and giving like constructive feedback rather than like nice, which would be like kind of sugarcoating everything and basically saving their feelings by not being honest and not telling them, you know, some sort of info that could help them improve and grow. And it's tricky because it's a lot of responsibility for someone to have to kindly but, you know, assertively give feedback in a way that they'll be able to receive and have to try to basically predict. You have to psychoanalyze. Like it gets pretty neurotic when you're trying to figure out how they're going to best receive information that's going to be challenging for them to receive. And then you're doing the emotional labor for them and you and then them again. And it's like, it's a lot, which is why it's so problematic. Like, yeah, the rules of, you know, the stereotype of masculinity around not talking about your emotions, not seeking help when you need it, not admitting that you're afraid or that you've got any vulnerabilities. Like that basically sets them up so that like they don't handle this sort of constructive feedback or criticism very well. And then we're trying to save their feelings while also doing the emotional labor for two. But I feel like, yeah, to be able to just kindly and compassionately be honest and be like delivering it in a way that is like, obviously this isn't your fault. How could you know if no one's ever told you? But like, would you like to get a bit of a crash course? I can tell you how I like to be touched. And like the main thing is that you listen and take it on board and then put it into action. And then if you've got the skill of listening to people's feedback and then putting it into action without taking it personally, you can take that into every sexual encounter with a different person who likes a different thing and it will serve you well, you know?
Exactly right. I even at the time I had spoken to a male friend about it and I was like, how do I kind of talk about it but almost make it like a sexy communication during to just sort of like normalize it, you know what I mean? And he was just sort of saying you kind of have to, but you've got to be very careful about how you do it, you know what I mean? It was just it was a bit of a minefield, that
it is, so
he was
tricky.
also just a lovely person, you know?
Absolutely. No, I know, and like they so often are. Like this stuff is learnt skill. Like it's not stuff we automatically know. And not everyone's got the same attunement to bodies or the same ability to kind of like intuit, you know, people's needs. And it's just a minefield. That's why like it's one of the most common things people struggle with is like communication in the bedroom. And and it's very humbling to realize you might have like a deficit in your skills in the bedroom, but like it's realistically actually really common. Because like, yeah, how else are you going to learn unless you're getting guidance and feedback and you're able to actually hear that and like act on it and improve by practice. And it sort of sucks that women in particular have been socialized to be very people pleasy, because then we're often taking the easy route of like saving their feelings by not telling them the truth and faking orgasms, which does both of us a disservice. And then these guys are allowed to get around their entire lives thinking that they're killing it in the bedroom, and everyone's just faking it with them because they actually aren't killing it and they've never had to grow and practice new skills and receive and give feedback because like we're all tiptoeing around their fucking fragile egos.
Yeah. That reminds me, someone I was with, and we were with for a while, and it was a very trusting relationship in that way, but he wasn't really concerned about my sexual needs in the early days, and I just sort of let it go. But then there was one time where it started to become a bit of an issue because it was less about like the finishing or anything like that, but the intimacy involved. Like it really felt like one-sided sex every time, and sort of on there when they felt like it, you know, and when they wanted to, and how fast they wanted it to move, and things like that. But then I started like throughout it be like, you know, I would really like to, you know, have you like finger me before we have sex, or can you do a bit more of this? Or I'm really like, what I really enjoy is like the clit. Like if you could try and touch it sometimes, I would really appreciate that sort of thing. And then there was a moment where we had finished. I'm like, I just need to tell you that like I didn't finish. I'm just like, he's like, yeah, you did. I'm like, no, I didn't. And he's like, yeah, you did. Your vagina clenched. So he thought that every single time we'd had sex, that anytime he felt that was me finishing. You know what I mean?
Wow.
But the issue was that he literally didn't believe me. He was like, no, you did. You just don't realize it. I'm like,
Oh, fucking hell. Are you getting your own orgasmic process mansplained to you right now?
yes.
Getting gaslit about your own orgasms? Fuck me.
I
This
know.
is exactly the issue.
Yeah. And then it makes me think now, when a guy doesn't prioritize your sexuality or just your needs or anything in the beginning, it's just like a very
Red flag.
I just had to reflect on myself in that process, that I was just like, oh, it'll change. You know what I mean? Maybe that was one or two times where he didn't really, you know, care that much, but it'll change, you know?
Oh, God.
And then it just didn't. And it just got worse.
Man, fucking hell. Like, people show you who they are and they show you their priorities. And so much of the time we don't listen because we see the potential in them instead of actually taking the info that they're giving us right now. Like, there's a lot of data in the first few. And, like, not everyone's going to be calibrated to your body straight away and know how to fuck you how you want to be fucked. But if they can't, like, listen, and if they don't seem to be even caring or at all about prioritizing your needs and your pleasure and checking in and asking for consent and asking you what you like and what you want more of and less of, like, what the fuck? Like, get out of there. It's just not on, hey? Like, you don't want to have to, like, fight tooth and nail for for your needs to be prioritized. Like, there should be ample space given for, like, opportunities for you to say what you like and what you need. Yeah, it's so insane. It's so insane. Like, yeah, damn, dude. Sounds like you've had some shit lovers.
I know. But it's weird. I think about that like lately, and I think I still feel like this weird guilt and this weird sort of like I'm being selfish if I'm asking for my needs to be met, because it's so like, there was a recent like sexual partner where I just sort of said afterwards, I'm like, you realize like I didn't, like, he's like, was that fun? I'm like, yeah, that was fun, but you realize like I didn't finish and you did, right? He's like, oh yeah. And it was like the first time I'd ever just be like, just by the way, like I wasn't really considered in that. I hope that's not a trend. You know what I mean? And even in that moment, I felt so like vulnerable even saying that, like, just by the way, that wasn't that good for me. It kind of was good for you, you know?
That's rough. And like, were you asking for, because like fully, and also I hear a lot, and tell me if this is you, tell me if you relate to this. I hear a lot of, like, both genders do this, but like, you know, women will be like, oh, like, that was shit for me and I didn't come. And they kind of put all the responsibility on the other person. And they actually, and I'm like, oh, but did you ask them for what you wanted? Did you say in the moment, like, oh, actually, can you do this? Actually, can you do this? Like, I like this. let's do that. Like, did you actually advocate for what you wanted and needed in the moment, or are you just going along for the ride and then afterwards telling them, oh, hey, I didn't come? And so much of the time, because we find it so difficult to ask for what we need, and because women have been told that they can't have needs and that our pleasure is an indulgence, and that having needs is selfish, and that our pleasure is less of a priority than a man's pleasure. Because of that, like, often women won't actually ask for what they need in the moment, but then they'll be bitter and resentful that they didn't come afterwards. But the man is also a victim of his own socialization and, feeling, So I'm just curious, like, in these experiences with people, like, do you actually give them some guidance and ask for what you need in the moment?
Excuse this quick interruption. I'm shamelessly seeking reviews and 5-star ratings for the potty because, as I'm sure you've noticed by now, it's pretty fab, and the more people who get to hear it, the more people I can help with it. Reviews and ratings actually do make a big difference to this little independent podcaster. And it's really easy to just quickly show your support by taking that simple act of either leaving 5 stars for the show on Spotify, or even better, writing a written review and leaving 5 stars over on Apple Podcasts. Or if you're a real overachiever, you can do them both. That would be mad. If you're writing a review, though, just be sure to use G-rated words, because despite the fact that this is a podcast about sexuality, words like sex can be censored and your review won't make it through the gates. Lame. Anyway, I would personally recommend doing that right now while you remember, just to get on top of it and let me know you're with me on this journey. Thanks, gang. Enjoy the rest of the epi.
I feel like after the first couple of times, I'm more comfortable too. Yeah. But first two, not in the slightest. Not even like, oh, I like this. You know what I mean? I've started to get a bit better at it, but yeah, it feels so. Even the smaller things, like moving their hand, or even being like, oh, that's like, oh, that hurt for a second or something. Like, even those moments feel really. Yeah, they feel like, I think what goes through my head is like more like, oh, they probably, I'm going to turn them off, or me even saying a need is like selfish.
Yeah, we don't want to ruin the mood, we don't want to ruin the flow. Yeah, and I fully get that, and it's fucking hard, especially in the beginning when you want to be open to just going with the flow with someone and seeing how they naturally engage with your body. But then what can happen with that is like how they're naturally engaging with your body might not even give you any opportunities to speak up, because they might not check in. They might not ask, is this feeling good? Do you want this, more of this, less of this? What do you want right now? Like, because we've been conditioned to shut the fuck up and just like take the man's lead. And like, men have been conditioned to take the lead, not ask questions, not accept any like, guidance or feedback. Basically, they feel like they need to pretend that they know exactly what they're doing, and take the lead. And so like, they might not even ask questions or check in or ask for consent or feedback as often, because that's how they've been socialized to behave as a man, as a leader, as, whatever, a stud in the sack. So our conditioning is working against both of us in those moments, and it can feel really fucking hard in a new encounter, when you're kind of keen to just see how it's all feeling, but then something doesn't feel great, and it's like, you're already in it, it's already happening, and you feel like to interrupt and be like, oh, actually, that doesn't feel good, or I'd like this instead, or whatever. It feels, at least for me and a lot of women I've spoken to, it feels like, we're worried we're going to seem too needy, too demanding, too fussy, too bossy, maybe, kind of like ruin the moment with our own needs. And it can just feel easier to like go along with it and then build up to saying, hey, by the way, we've had sex a few times now and I just like noticed this, and actually I would like this, so it's so understandable. But that's like so problematic and such a good example of how gender stereotypes have completely fucked us over. Because imagine like having a handful of different one-night stands where you don't actually even get an opportunity to see that person again and build the trust and rapport to give them proper feedback about what you like. And then they're just getting all this like inaccurate data about what women like and how to treat women's bodies. And it's like no one's fault. It's just our conditioning and our socialization and the gender roles and norms. And it's just fucked because, like, yeah, it's sad. It's sad that, like, yeah, I had a friend that had an experience with someone on a dating app recently. And, you know, he's like an ex-rugby player. It's like big dude. Apparently he had like the most gigantic penis she'd ever seen in her life. And he just plowed her, like cunt plunged her to within an inch of her life. And she was just literally like, what the actual fuck are you doing with your penis? Is literally a weapon and you are using it like a weapon. Like she was like in shock almost. She was like, how have you gotten to be in your 30s and no one has told you that vaginas don't like being treated like that and it fucking hurts? And I was like, and did you say anything, babe? Because I know she's got like fuck all boundaries and she really struggles with this stuff and I'm constantly coaching her on it. And she was like, oh, no. I'm like, next time you see him, like if you see this guy again, and I even think if you don't see him, you should send him a text. And you can do it kindly, but you need to fucking let this dude know that if you've got a dick like that, you cannot be getting around treating vaginas like these invincible like sex doll vessels for you to masturbate in. Because it is inhumane to fuck someone that hard when their pussy's that dry. Like she was like, it was so bad. I like bled afterwards. And I was like, bitch, this is not okay. How the fuck is this guy doing this? And no one's told him that it's not okay. And also like, where is his head at that he hasn't even considered, you know, he's obviously just watched heaps of porn and he thinks that that's normal. But like, imagine the trail of carnage and bleeding pussies he's leaving behind. And like women feeling like they can't speak up and be like, that's actually painful, dude. You need to go slow. You need to work into this gradually. You need to do so much fucking foreplay and warming up. We need to use lube. Straight up. You need to use lube every fucking time if your dick's that big. Like, there's just so much stuff that I'm like, how has no one told him this before? I'm furious about this.
Right? Yeah. I've had one of those before. And that, but like a very different experience, like two, where it was just like unusually big. Like, and there was one guy who was gentle and lovely and could probably only get like a quarter in.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, like there is such thing as big, you know what I mean? But he was like lube and had all these, you know, he was aware of it and he was lovely about it.
Exactly. And you can get
O-nuts. Second dude was just like,
and O-nuts are like these silicone sort of sleeves. They almost look like cock rings, but you can layer them up and put like 2 or 3 on your penis, and it's like a spacer that sits at the base of the cock and actually prevents it from, if they thrust fully, it'll stop at the entrance because it sort of acts as a buffer or a cushion, so it prevents the penis from going in the full length. And it's for people with really long penises that are with people who don't have a vaginal canal long enough to handle the whole penis. So instead of him having to like be really cautious and make sure that every thrust is measured and not going too deep because he might hurt her, you can just put these O-rings on to like act to like almost shorten the amount of penis that goes in. And then they can just thrust away and it doesn't, you know, go in too deep accidentally.
That would have been for the second dude.
Yeah, but sorry, go on.
No, because exactly that. He would just sort of thrust and then be like, I'd be like, and he'd be like, oh, sorry. And then it wasn't good for either of us. You know what I mean? It was just like, ow, 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 ow. And it was just like, no position worked. It was just like, shit, what do we do here?
That's so different. It's actually really sad. I know everyone thinks that a big penis is the best thing ever, but like, yeah, it's so not. It's really rough when it's too big. And it's just like compatibility. Like people have different length vaginas and can cop different size dicks. And yeah, it's really sad when I had a friend who was with a partner for years and they loved each other dearly, but he was just way, 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 way too big for her, and it posed such an issue. And then when sex just starts being associated with like pain, your body's bracing against it, and he would struggle to keep erections because he was so afraid of hurting her, and it can be really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was another story that I had on my little list for you to talk about. Waterboarder.
This was like, I think the second person I had sex with ever.
Whoa.
Yeah, and we were we were just like hooking up pretty much, but he would just seem to think all these things were like super hot and like different at the time. Like, I think there was one where if I was on top, he'd want me to like light a cigarette while I was on top, and that really like things like
Yeah.
that, where I was like, okay. But then at one point, I don't know what was going on in his head, but he thought like during, it was like missionary, he thought during, if he just like, it's like he wanted everything to be wet and moist kind of thing. So randomly out of nowhere, he gets like a liter bottle of water and just in the middle, like, I don't know what's going on. My eyes are up here. And he just like throws this entire bottle of water on me.
Oh my God.
And I was like, what the? I just remember being young and I had just done my fake tan. I was like, what the hell? What the hell have
Was
you
it
done?
cold?
And it was freezing.
Oh no.
It was in like a cold room and it was just like literally being waterboarded because I was like, oh, what the fuck?
Oh God.
I know.
What is with
know.
people just like surprising you with these things that are like, actually like can be considered to be in the kink space, but like they're not having a conversation first to discuss, the agreement and what's going to happen and if you're okay with that, and like, yeah, it's such a shame when that happens. I feel like porn's got so much to answer for in that regard. Because so many men in particular are just like doing all this like kinky as fuck shit to partners that aren't prepared, have not been asked for consent, and are like not fucking into it.
Yeah. I wanted to be into it for him, but you got to have a conversation. You know what I mean? Like
100%.
He would always want to have a conversation after, you know what I mean? So it's like his understanding of consent at that point, especially being like super young, I think was like, and almost his consent was like an aftercare conversation. Like, how is that waterboarding for you?
Oh my God.
How is that? I just threw that in there. I'm like,
bit of a heads up next time, please. Yeah, it's almost like, it's this classic thing of like people not asking for consent because they're worried you'll say no and they want to do it badly enough that they'd rather just do it. And then you tell them that you're not into it afterwards. And then it's like, that is the full-on fucking opposite of consent, because if you have an inkling that the person might say no, then that's exactly why you need to ask for consent. And if you're doing it anyway and you're not asking because you're worried about the risk of them saying no, meaning that you don't get to do it, then that's like literally the most selfish fucking thing in the world, and that's so toxic. But that's how so many people are, and that's how like men have been taught to be. Just like do what you want to fucking do and like pay for it afterwards.
I think there's like a lot of men when you have that like dom sub conversation. I feel like men just say dom because it's what they're supposed to do. You know what I mean? And then there's been some like sexual things where it actually feels like they're really enjoying the sub, but they don't want to admit it or something. It's really, and I don't know how to navigate that either. It's tough.
Yeah, I guess that's like,
because then you feel like you're the reverse. Like if you were to just take the lead for a second, it's like, oh, good, no.
Yeah, it's sad when people can't embrace, their sexual essence or expression of sexuality in the moments where they actually do feel like they want to be more submissive. There's like a rejection of self or a rejection of vulnerability or whatever. And it's definitely like if that's a man experiencing resistance to a natural inclination to submission, it's fully because of the patriarchy and the conditioning around gender stereotypes. Like it's just, it's so sad that that gets in the way of people feeling like they can actually be authentically expressing themselves in the bedroom. And like you might think less of them or whatever, you know. And I guess it's just like leading by example and showing them that you're actually down for that, and be like, oh, I quite like being a little bit dominant sometimes. Like, how do you feel about, you know, or I mean, whatever it is, but just, I guess, regularly communicating about it to normalize it and to show that, like, there's so many varied ways to be and to enjoy intimacy and sex. But yeah, if they're just deeply in the closet about that and they're deeply rejecting that part of themselves, there's not a whole lot you can do. Like, you can be accepting and kind of express that you're really into it or you're open to this, that, and the other, but you know, at the end of the day, it's like their relationship with themselves that they've got to work on, they've got to come to terms with and, you know, find a way to be comfortable with and embrace. Yeah. Big stuff. Lots of big stuff. Do you have any more like horror stories from dating or one night stands or like dating fails? Maybe like a TMI story, anything that springs to mind to like end with?
Oh. No, actually, nothing's coming to mind. Oh. No, actually.
All right.
I'm trying to think. They're my like most awkward encounters, I think. Oh, there was it's not a TMI, but it's just something that comes to mind. I sat with a dude who was like 3 years younger than me. And he didn't want to go down on me because I had pubes.
What?
Yeah. And when I said this to a group of friends, it was crazy. About 5 chicks were like, yeah, I had that happen to me too. I'm like, what?
Oh, Lordy.
Because I feel like you get like one or the other. Oh, wait, hang on. I've got a bit of a TMI. I feel like there is not TMI necessarily, but there's a bit of a thing with dudes about whether they'll have period sex or not.
Yeah.
And I feel like it tells you like a lot about someone, how if they're like grossed out by it.
Yeah.
I think fair if they're a little bit grossed out because it's blood. You know what I mean? I can understand. Yeah. But the ones that aren't, I just find it like, oh, it's just like a natural thing your body does. I just find it so sexy. You know what I mean?
100%.
That they just don't care.
I know.
Yeah.
It's very healing actually for, you know, women who have been made to feel like their bodies are dirty and gross and their periods are yucky and shameful and unhygienic, and all the marketing around, you know, feminine hygiene products and sanitary napkins. And like we've really had this message about our bodies, our vaginas, our periods being dirty and shameful drilled into us for centuries. So when a guy, you know, who we've been conditioned to really desire approval from, when a guy is like, oh my God, I love it all, it's all great, natural, I'm not grossed out, let me in there, that's fucking healing. That's like really, and like I get it, some people have weird stuff around blood, some people have sensory sensitivities, some people have a really sort of sensitive disgust response, and I've done an episode about the disgust response and sex and the different ways that can present in people. And the different neurotypes that might mean that certain things are really gross to them. Fine, totally. But I definitely like don't know if I could be with someone who found such a natural, normal part of my body disgusting. I love it when people are down for period sex. It's not my favorite thing in the world. I don't have to have period sex, but I want the option, and I would love to not be made to feel yucky. And
Exactly.
it feels like if someone's just like drinking in all of me and totally okay with all of me, then there's like a real acceptance of the feminine and of my body and its natural processes that makes me feel safe with that person. Makes me feel like if I were to get sick and um, shit myself or something, they wouldn't be like disgusted with me. If I were to give birth and they were there in the room, they wouldn't be horrified and grossed out by the blood and the, you know, a baby coming out of my vagina. Like there's a lot of things that the body does that can be quite squeamish. And I'm squeamish about certain things. I'm not judging people for being a bit grossed out or squeamish, but there is something fucking nice and like refreshing and very like reassuring about being with someone that's not grossed out by period sex. Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not, I had a conversation with a bunch of couples and all my male friends about it. And there was like, some couples were just dead against it, and other couples were like, yeah, it's like our favorite time to have sex because like we don't have to use a condom or we don't have to do this, and like it's good for both of us sort of thing. It was just so interesting to hear like the different and how they've been socialized into the idea of periods. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah, you just hope that you find someone who's got a compatible relationship with periods to you, and that, you know, you're either both grossed out and don't want to have period sex, or you're both into it. That's the ideal. And, you know, you can navigate it if it's different and you have different needs. That's always going to happen with certain things with sex. But yeah, I mean, the whole thing around like not going down on you because you've got pubes is like pretty abhorrent. I'm just like,
I feel like
much to answer for.
Yeah, I feel like he was just young, and that was as well maybe like something he has learned on porn, that a vagina is just supposed to be bald all of the time. But not gonna lie, like gives you a bit of a complex about it, like you're like that same sort of you're unhygienic or something because you have pubes. You know what I mean? It's just
and like how did you discover? Did you ask him and he said no, and then he explained why, or like how do you know that's why he wasn't into it?
I had gone down on him, and then I was like, oh, I'd really like it if like you went down on me. And he was like, oh, no, you've got pubes. And I was like, what? And I kind of not went him. I wouldn't say I went him, but I was like, wait, what do you mean? You have pubes? You haven't shaved? Like what? I was really offended by it.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, what? I'm like, so what? Because I remember as well, it's not like I had this huge bush either. It was just like a little bit, like maybe a couple days. I'm like, if I shave something that stubble, I'm just going to like have a huge rash. Like,
oh my God, what the actual fuck? I hope you didn't have sex with him.
No, after that, I think that was actually the last time. Yay for me, good.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so sad. What the hell?
I know.
It's just, it's like I've heard from men, like young men and teenagers and stuff who have never really seen like a natural vulva, and they've only seen porn ones, and they don't know what inner labia are when they see inner labia that aren't like, you know, innies, like really tucked in small inner labia. So when they see like a more floral vulva with like longer or larger inner labia, they're like, what the fuck is that? Because they haven't seen it before. And similar deal with pubes. Like it's so rare to see it maybe in the porn that they're watching and in the peers that they're sleeping with, because it's become so normalized to just remove it all that like when they see something outside of that, they have all of these like ideas around like that being not okay or not normal or gross or whatever. And like that makes me so fucking sad. So sad.
It makes me sad how many female friends I've spoken to who they can't engage even sexually with the way they want to because of how they think their vagina is supposed to look. You know what I mean? And how many women I've spoken to who just like we had a few friends go and do vagina painting, and then the reaction to that was like a lot of women who didn't ever want to look at their vagina, like just so grossed out by it, and just thinking there's something inherently wrong with how their vagina looks. You know what I mean? And then they couldn't feel good in the bedroom because of that, and it was just breaks my heart, you know.
Hey, me again. If you'd like to support the potty and you've already given it 5 stars on whatever platform you're listening on, I want to mention that you can buy some really dope merch from the website and get yourself a Labia Lounge tote, tee, togs. Yep, you heard that right. I even have Labia Lounge bathers. Or a cute fanny pack if that'd blow your hair back. So if fashion isn't your passion, though, you can donate to my Buy Me a Coffee donation page, which is actually called Buy Me a Soy Chai Latte, because I'll be the first to admit I'm a bit of a Melbourne cafe tosser like that. And yes, that is my coffee order. You can do a once-off donation or an ongoing membership and sponsor me for as little as 3 fat ones a month. And I also offer one-on-one coaching and online courses that'll help you level up your sex life and relationship with yourself and others in a really big way. So every bit helps, because it ain't cheap to put out a sweet podcast into the world every week out of my own pocket. So I will be undyingly grateful if you support me and my biz financially in any of these ways. And if you like, I'll even give you a mental BJ with my mind from the lounge itself. Saucy. And I'll pop the links in the show notes. Thank you. Later.
So fucking heartbreaking. I know. Like, I've done an episode on vulva. I can't remember what it was called actually, but I interviewed someone on like labiaplasty and like vulva diversity and stuff, because it's such a massive issue, and it's like it's the fastest growing cosmetic surgery in the world, and like it's so wild how many people are getting labiaplasty and feeling this pressure to have, innies. And it fucking breaks my heart. And then the fact that there's, these boys and men reinforcing that insecurity is just so not okay. Like, it makes my blood boil, and it's devastating. It's really devastating that this is like happening so commonly. And yeah, it's fucked. It's fucked. Anyway, it's a whole other topic, but yeah, really devastating sort of state of affairs.
I know.
Yeah. Oh man.
Hope it gets better.
I know. There's some really good like advocacy going on, like around trying to educate people that all different diverse looking vulvas with different size labia are all very normal. And actually, like, you can maybe tell your friends that are insecure about this, like inner labia that are larger and outies, they're actually way more common than innies. So more common. So, and so many people love it. Like, it's just the men that have watched way too much porn and haven't seen enough diversity and have gotten it in their head that that's normal, that feel like there's an issue, but they're just brainwashed. And you don't want to be with someone like that anyway, because then you'll just be having shit sex and feeling insecure about your body one way or another. Exactly. But anyway, I'm just getting croakier and croakier, so we should probably end this.
Oh, well, thank you for doing today. I loved it.
Yeah, thanks for the stories. Such good chats. I feel like it sparked a lot of different like reflections and discussions that are very relatable, I think, for so many people, especially people that are dating and having sex and figuring it out with new partners. Like, all of what you've experienced is super common and relatable. I mean, maybe not the sort of animalistic titty slapping howling at the moon orgasms. I mean, I'm not here to yuck anyone's yum, but obviously that was that kind of came out of nowhere. But yeah, thank you so much, my dear.
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
And that's it, darling hearts. Thanks for stopping by the Labia Lounge. Your bum groove in the couch will be right where you left it, just waiting for you to sink back in for some more double L action next time. If you'd be a dear and subscribe, share this episode, or leave a review on iTunes, then you can pat yourself on the snatch, because that's a downright act of sex-positive feminist activism, and you'd be supporting my vision to educate, empower, demystify, and destigmatize with this here podcast. I'm also always open to feedback, topic ideas that you'd love to hear covered, questions or guest suggestions, so feel free to get in touch via my website or over on Insta. You can also send me in TMI stories to be shared anonymously on the pod. My handle is FreyaGraf_the Labia Lounge, if my account hasn't been deleted for being too sex positive, which, is always a possibility with censorship. But just in case the chronic censorship finally does obliterate my social channels, I'd highly recommend going and joining my mailing list and snagging yourself some fun freebies for the trouble at www.freyagraf.com/freebies. Anyway, later, labial legends. See you next time.